Hey everyone! Welcome to the Expensive Coins History channel. Today, we're counting down the top 7 most famous and rare Abraham Lincoln 1-cent pennies. From rare minting errors to coins with incredible history, these little pennies are big treasures. Let's dive in and see which Lincoln cents are the most coveted by collectors. The 1984 Lincoln cent with no mint mark. But look closer, and you'll discover that this everyday penny has a history, a few rare varieties, and a value range that might astonish you. Some of these coins can be worth far more than 1 cent, and in certain cases, they can sell for hundreds or even thousands of dollars in today's market. To understand the value of the 1984 no mint mark penny, we first need to understand where it comes from. The Lincoln cent design originated in 1909, honoring the 100th anniversary of Abraham Lincoln's birth. In 1959, the reverse was changed to the Lincoln Memorial design, which remained until 2008. By the year 1984, the U.S. Mint was fully into the modern era of penny production, using a copper-plated zinc composition instead of the older, fully copper cent. These newer pennies have a core of zinc with a thin copper coating, making them lighter but also more prone to wear, spotting, and corrosion if not properly stored. The 1984 penny with no mint mark was produced at the Philadelphia Mint, which traditionally did not place a mint mark on circulating cents at that time. Over 8 billion of these coins were struck, making it one of the most common U.S. coins of the decade. Because so many were minted, an ordinary circulated 1984 no mint mark penny holds very little monetary value. But the key to its collectability lies in condition, color, and the presence of specific error varieties. One of the most famous and sought-after varieties of the 1984 Lincoln cent is the double die obverse, often called the double ear variety. On these coins, Lincoln's ear shows clear doubling, appearing almost like a second earlobe beneath the primary one. This was caused by a slight misalignment during the die creation process, resulting in a doubled impression. Collectors love these kinds of errors because they are noticeable, visually interesting, and relatively scarce compared to the billions of normal coins produced. If you believe you may have one of these coins, the easiest way to check is to examine Lincoln's ear under magnification. A genuine double die will show distinct doubling that is part of the design itself, not damage or wear. These coins, even in circulated condition, can sell for significant amounts. Clean, certified examples can reach prices well into the hundreds, and the highest grade pieces are known to sell for more. Condition plays an enormous role in determining the value of any 1984 penny. Collectors assign values based on color and grade. A red coin is one that still retains almost all its original mint luster, while red-brown and brown coins show varying degrees of toning. Red coins in top condition are far more desirable and can command high prices. In the highest certified grades, especially in red condition, these coins can reach extraordinary values. Some examples have sold for several $1,000s due to their rarity and pristine preservation. Apart from the double die variety, coin collectors also pay attention to the overall quality of the strike, the surface condition, and the absence of nicks, spots, or discoloration. Because these coins are made with a zinc core, they can develop bubbles, spots, or corrosion over time, and any of these forms of damage dramatically reduce the value. Well-preserved examples stored carefully from the time of minting are increasingly rare. Now let's talk about the current market and what these coins are worth in 2025. As of this year, an ordinary circulated 1984 no mint mark penny is generally worth only face value. However, uncirculated pieces with sharp detail and strong red color can range from a few cents to several dollars depending on condition. The real value lies in the top-grade coins, where prices can climb into the double or even triple-digit range. Exceptional specimens, especially those graded extremely high by professional grading services, can surpass $100 and climb well higher. The double die, double ear variety remains the star of the year. Depending on grade, these coins can bring in anywhere from around $100 for lower mint state examples to several $100s for higher grade pieces. The highest graded examples, especially those in blazing red condition, can sell for impressive amounts, sometimes reaching over $1,000 when demand is strong. The 1984 no-mint mark penny is a coin that most people overlook. Billions were minted, yet the presence of major varieties, the scarcity of top-condition pieces, and the dramatic difference in value between grades make this coin a fascinating piece for collectors. For most people, the penny they find in circulation will be worth 1 cent. But for the lucky few who discover a double die or a high-grade, well-preserved example, the value can rise dramatically. If you have any 1984 pennies at home, it's absolutely worth taking a careful look. 1984 D Mint Mark Abraham Lincoln 1 cent penny. This coin has both everyday versions that are extremely common as well as one incredibly rare variety that has shocked the coin collecting world with its value. By the end of this video, you'll know the history of the coin, why it exists, what makes some versions valuable, how to identify the rarest variety, and what the 1984 D penny is worth today in 2025. The Lincoln cent has been a cornerstone of American pocket change since 1909, when it was first released to honor the 100th anniversary of Abraham Lincoln's birth. It quickly became iconic, featuring the bust of the 16th president on the front and, beginning in 1959, the Lincoln Memorial on the back. The design became one of the most recognizable in U.S. coinage. By 1984, the United States Mint was producing the Lincoln cent in enormous numbers. The Denver Mint, which uses the D Mint mark, struck more than 5.5 billion of these pennies in that year alone. Because of this massive mintage, the typical 1984 D penny is extremely common and still easily found in circulation today. The vast majority are worth only their face value. However, as with many coins, not all 1984 D pennies are the same. A tiny handful were struck with a rare and dramatic error that changes everything about their value. Before we get to the rare variety, let's talk about what the typical 1984 D penny is made of. Starting in 1982, the Mint changed the composition of the cent from solid copper to a zinc core coated in a thin layer of copper. The 1984 D penny follows this composition, weighing 2.5 grams and measuring just over 19 millimeters in diameter. This zinc-based coinage introduced new issues, including a tendency for some pennies to develop bubbles or surface blisters due to corrosion under the copper plating. These are not considered mint errors and do not increase value. The standard 1984 D penny shows Abraham Lincoln on the obverse with the date 1984 beneath his portrait and the small D mint mark indicating Denver. On the reverse is the Lincoln Memorial design, along with the familiar inscriptions found on all memorial cents of that era. Now let's get into what makes this coin interesting. Although the majority of 1984 D pennies are worth 1 cent, there is one variety that is so rare that only a few confirmed examples exist. This is the famous double die obverse, often nicknamed the double ear penny. Unlike common machine doubling or deterioration doubling, this is a true double die error created at the die-making stage, making the doubling part of the die itself. This variety is extremely easy to misidentify, so collectors need to know exactly what to look for. The most dramatic feature is strong doubling on Lincoln's ear, which appears as a distinct secondary shape just behind the main ear. The doubling is bold and crisp, not flat or shelf-like. Additional doubling may appear in parts of the date or in the word Liberty, but the doubled ear is the signature diagnostic. If you ever come across a 1984 D penny that shows clean, raised doubling in these areas, you may be holding one of the most valuable modern Lincoln cents ever discovered. Because so few examples are known, these coins have achieved extraordinary prices on the collector market. One mint state example sold for $250,000. Even examples in lower mint state grades command values well into the tens or hundreds of thousands. This is what makes the 1984 D double die obverse one of the most coveted modern era coins in existence. But what about the standard, non-era 1984 D penny? Although most are worth only a cent, there are still some exceptions. High-grade uncirculated examples can be worth more, especially coins that maintain their original bright red color, known as red or RD in the grading system. Coins graded MS-67 or MS-68 can bring strong premiums, ranging from tens to several $100s, depending on eye appeal and grading service demand. These coins are much more attainable than the double die error, but still valuable to collectors who specialize in modern Lincoln cents. In 2025, the market for the 1984 D penny remains strong, especially for premium examples. The rare double die obverse continues to be one of the most valuable modern pennies, with estimated values ranging from $50,000 for lower uncirculated examples to over $200,000 for top-graded specimens. Even the standard 1984 D penny, when found in the highest grades, can bring impressive four-figure results at auction. So why is there such a dramatic difference in value? It comes down to rarity, condition, and demand. Billions of 1984 D pennies exist in average condition, but only a microscopic number of true double die obverse coins were ever struck. Combine that rarity with the popularity of Lincoln cent collecting, and you have a perfect storm that drives prices to extraordinary heights. Collectors will pay premium amounts for coins that are both rare and visually dramatic, and the 1984 D double die obverse fits that description perfectly. If you believe you might have found a valuable example, handle the coin carefully, avoid touching the surfaces, and get it examined by a top-tier grading service. Even a minor scratch can significantly lower the value of a rare coin. Always compare your coin to known examples, use a magnifying glass or microscope, and look for the strong, raised doubling that defines the authentic error. The 1984 D Lincoln penny is a perfect example of how a common-looking coin can sometimes hide a treasure. While most are worth only a single cent, the rare double die obverse variety can be worth more than a luxury car, a down payment on a house, or even a full year's salary. Whether you're a seasoned collector or someone who simply enjoys checking their pocket change, this coin reminds us that valuable discoveries can show up in the most unexpected places. 1985 D Mint Mark Abraham Lincoln 1-cent penny, a coin that most people overlook, but one that collectors know can sometimes be worth far more than a single cent. We'll explore its history, rarity, special characteristics, and what the market says about its value today in 2025. So settle in, and let's dive into the fascinating story behind this modern-era Lincoln cent. The 1985 D penny was minted at the Denver Mint during a period of major change in U.S. coinage. Just a few years earlier, the United States Mint had transitioned away from producing pennies made mostly of solid copper. Due to rising copper prices, 1982 marked the switch to a zinc core with a thin copper plating. By 1985, this new composition was well established. The 1985 D Lincoln cent is made of a 97.5% zinc core with a 2.5% copper coating. This design change helped the mint reduce production costs, but it also led to an entirely new era of collecting, because zinc-based cents tend to show wear differently and can produce unique errors not seen in earlier copper cents. Featuring the familiar portrait of Abraham Lincoln designed by Victor David Brenner, the obverse displays the D Mint mark just below the date. On the reverse, the Lincoln Memorial, designed by Frank Gasparo, reflects a simple yet iconic representation of American architecture. Even though the design might seem ordinary to us now, these pennies represent an important moment in numismatic history, marking the continued use of the memorial reverse before its retirement in 2008. Now, when it comes to rarity, most 1985 D pennies are extremely common simply because the Denver Mint produced more than 5 billion of them. With numbers this high, the vast majority of surviving examples have little to no premium above face value. However, this does not mean all 1985 D pennies are equal. Collectors always look for three things: condition, color, and errors, and in all three categories, exceptional examples can be worth real money. Condition is arguably the most important factor. A penny that has been circulating for decades will almost always show scratches, dull surfaces, or discoloration. But an uncirculated 1985 D penny, especially one preserved since the day it left the mint, can be dramatically more valuable. Collectors use the term mint state, abbreviated MS, to describe uncirculated coins. When a 1985 D penny grades in the high mint state range, for example MS66, MS67, or higher, it can gain significant collector interest. The reason is simple: even though billions were produced, only a very small number survived in pristine, untouched condition. The higher the grade, the rarer the coin becomes. Color also matters greatly. Lincoln cents are graded not only on condition but on color designations: brown, and red. Red examples, which keep their original bright copper-like shine, are the most desirable. Time, moisture, and handling can all cause the penny to darken, so finding a 1985 D penny that still displays full red brilliance is far more difficult than it might seem. A high-grade red example is where real value begins to appear, but some of the most exciting and valuable versions of the 1985 D penny come from mint errors. Because of the copper-plated zinc composition, the mid-1980s produced a variety of unusual mistakes. There are examples struck on unplated planchets, leaving the coin with a visibly silver or gray appearance. Others may show plating errors, missing areas of copper, or blistering and bubbling caused during the manufacturing process. There are also dramatic errors such as off-center strikes, double strikes, and in extremely rare cases, coins struck on the wrong planchet, including overstrikes on dimes. These mistakes are not common, and when found in high grade, they can command surprisingly strong prices at auction point. One of the highest valued 1985 D pennies ever recorded was an example graded MS69 red, an extraordinarily difficult grade for any copper-plated zinc cent to achieve. Exceptional surface quality, sharp detail, and flawless color contribute to this type of premium. A coin of this quality is essentially the finest of the fine and can sell for thousands of dollars to advanced collectors who appreciate modern perfection. So what about the typical market value of the 1985 D penny in 2025? For most examples found in pocket change, circulation where keeps them at face value, 1 cent. Even lightly circulated pieces may only be worth a few cents to collectors who need a filler for their album. Uncirculated examples, especially those with bright red color, can range from a few dollars to over $10 depending on the grade. When the grade reaches the high mint state levels, values can climb into the dozens of dollars. But the coins that truly break into the hundreds or even thousands are the rare error coins and the extremely high grade, nearly flawless mint state red examples. In today's collecting market, modern coins are becoming more and more appreciated, especially high-grade pieces and unique errors. As younger collectors enter the hobby and grading services expand their certification of modern coins, values for exceptional 1985 D pennies have grown steadily. While this coin is not considered rare in general, the rarest examples continue to attract competition from collectors who want the best of the best. If you believe you have a valuable 1985 D penny, take the time to inspect it closely. Look for strong luster, bright red color, and the absence of scratches or marks. Check for any unusual features or striking abnormalities that could indicate an error. And when in doubt, consider having the coin authenticated and graded by a reputable third-party grading service, as certified coins typically bring higher prices and more buyer confidence. The 1985 Lincoln 1-cent penny with no mint mark, a modern coin with an interesting history, surprising rarity factors, and a wide range of potential values depending on condition and characteristics. If you've ever wondered whether your 1985 penny could be worth more than a cent, stay tuned, because this video will walk you through its history, composition, rarity, and how much it can be worth in the current 2025 market. The 1985 Lincoln cent comes from an era when the United States Mint was transitioning fully into its newer composition of zinc with a thin copper plating. Just a few years earlier, the Mint moved away from the traditional solid copper formula due to rising copper costs. The 1985 penny reflects the modern composition, containing a zinc core and a thin layer of copper to maintain the familiar color. This change made the penny cheaper to produce but also much more susceptible to corrosion, spotting, and color loss over time. The obverse features the classic portrait of Abraham Lincoln, while the reverse shows the Lincoln Memorial, a design that was used from 1959 until 2008. The no mint mark on the 1985 penny indicates that it was struck at the Philadelphia Mint. Philadelphia produced an enormous quantity of these coins, with well over 5 billion entering circulation that year. Because of such a massive mintage, most 1985 pennies are extremely common. Almost everyone in the United States has likely come across one at some point. But while the coin itself is common, certain special conditions, errors, and high-grade examples are where the real excitement and value come into play. In the world of modern pennies, condition is everything. Most 1985 pennies that you'll find in pocket change are heavily circulated, worn, or brown in color. These are almost always worth just 1 cent. However, the story changes dramatically for coins that have survived in pristine condition. A high-grade uncirculated example, especially one that still retains its original bright red copper shine, can be worth far more. Because the copper plating on these zinc pennies easily spots, fades, or breaks down, finding a perfectly preserved coin from 1985 is much harder than it might sound. As a result, collectors place a premium on coins graded in the higher mint state levels, especially those designated red. Coins in middle mint state levels, such as MS-65 or MS-66, can sell for several dollars to a few dozen dollars depending on their color and eye appeal. Once you move into upper mint state levels, such as MS-67 or MS-68, the value increases sharply. Exceptional examples at the highest known grades have sold for hundreds or even thousands of dollars due to extreme rarity in that condition. This is where the 1985 penny becomes truly exciting for collectors. A normal coin with a massive mintage becomes a modern rarity when preserved at the very top quality. Another factor that can raise the value of a 1985 penny is the presence of mint errors. Error coins are the result of mistakes during the striking process, and certain types are highly sought after. Off-center strikes, broad strikes, die cracks, cuds, and other dramatic minting errors can raise the value of a 1985 penny significantly. Simple errors may sell for a few dollars, while more dramatic or visually appealing errors can bring in tens or even hundreds of dollars depending on severity, clarity of the design, and overall condition of the coin. Unique or extreme errors are often collected as individual one-of-a-kind pieces since no two errors are exactly the same. Now let's talk about today's market in 2025. Most circulated 1985 pennies remain worth 1 cent. Uncirculated examples in lower mint state grades typically range from a few cents to a few dollars. Mid-level mint state coins can range from $10 to $50 depending on their brightness and strike quality. High-grade red examples in MS-67 or higher can reach into the high hundreds or several $1,000s, depending on demand and auction competition. Error coins also continue to attract strong collector interest, with dramatic errors bringing in impressive premiums. The value of the 1985 penny varies so widely because this coin is all about condition rarity, not mintage rarity. Billions were made, but only a tiny percentage survive today in the highest grades. Zinc-based pennies are simply harder to keep in perfect condition. That's why collectors appreciate sharp, clean, bright red examples and are willing to pay a premium for them. The coins market also remains strong because modern pennies are accessible to new collectors, making them an attractive entry point into the hobby. If you want to know whether your 1985 penny has value beyond a cent, here are a few things to look for. Check the color first. A bright red, shiny surface is a major sign of quality. Look for sharp details in Lincoln's portrait and the Lincoln Memorial. If the coin shows no signs of wear, it may be uncirculated. Inspect the coin closely for any unusual features that could indicate a mint error. And if you believe your coin may be high grade or an error, consider having it professionally graded, as official certification can dramatically increase final sale value. The 1985 no mint mark penny might seem like an ordinary coin at first glance, but with the right qualities, it can be a surprising treasure. Whether it's a rare error, a top-grade example, or simply a beautifully preserved red coin, this penny has earned a special place among modern collectors. Even though most examples remain common and worth face value, the valuable ones truly stand out. 1986 D Mint Mark Abraham Lincoln 1 cent penny. At first glance, it appears to be one of the most ordinary coins in circulation, but as we explore its history, details, rarity, and 2025 market value, you'll discover that some examples of this coin can be worth far more than a single cent. To understand this coin, we start with the broader story of the Lincoln cent itself. Introduced in 1909 to honor President Abraham Lincoln's 100th birthday, the design quickly became one of the most iconic pieces of American currency. The obverse features Lincoln's right-facing portrait alongside the inscriptions, "In God We Trust," "Liberty," and the date. On the 1986 Denver minted cent, a small letter D appears beneath the date, indicating that it was struck at the Denver Mint. The reverse shows the Lincoln Memorial, a design that appeared on the cent from 1959 until 2008. During the mid-1980s, the Lincoln cent was no longer made primarily of copper. Because copper prices had risen significantly, the U.S. Mint shifted to a copper-plated zinc composition. That means most 1986 pennies consist of a zinc core with a thin copper coating. This change reduced the coin's intrinsic metal value but maintained the traditional appearance that collectors were familiar with. Now when it comes to production, the Denver Mint struck an enormous number of pennies in 1986. Billions were made, which means the majority of these coins are extremely common today. In circulated condition, most have very little value beyond their face value. However, the story changes dramatically when we move into higher grades. Uncirculated examples, especially those that retain their original bright red mint luster, are far scarcer than everyday pocket change. Coins that remain sharply struck, free of wear, and rich in copper color are the ones collectors pursue. Among these higher-grade pieces, certain mint-state examples have sold for significant amounts. The most exceptional pieces graded at the highest levels, such as MS-67, MS-68, and even MS-69, have brought in hundreds, and in rare cases, several thousands of dollars at auction. These top-tier coins are so valuable because only a tiny fraction of the billions produced survived in such pristine condition. Every small mark, scratch, or spot on the surface can drop a coin's grade and drastically lower its value. In addition to condition rarity, error varieties also play a major role in the value of some 1986 D pennies. Collectors constantly search for double die varieties, off-center strikes, repunched mint marks, and rare instances where the coin was struck on the wrong planchet. These errors occur during the minting process and are worth far more than regular strikes. An off-center strike with a clear date and mint mark can be worth tens or even hundreds of dollars. A dramatic double die or wrong planchet error, if discovered, can bring in even more. Of course, not every anomaly is valuable. Many coins may simply show damage from circulation or environmental wear, which does not make them rare or collectible. But genuine mint errors, once authenticated, remain some of the most desirable categories in modern coin collecting. Now let's discuss what these coins are realistically worth in the year 2025. For circulated, everyday examples, the value remains at 1 cent. Even lightly worn coins rarely exceed a few cents. Uncirculated pieces in lower mint state grades, such as MS-60 to MS-63, usually sell for a small premium, often just a few cents to $1. The true value lies in the high-end mint state coins displaying strong red color, excellent luster, and minimal surface imperfections. MS-65 and MS-66 examples typically sell for several dollars. Once you reach the MS-67 and MS-68 grades, values can rise into the tens, hundreds, or even low thousands, depending on overall eye appeal and grading service certification. Top population coins, meaning the best-known examples graded by major grading companies, can achieve headline-worthy prices. While not every collector will encounter such a specimen, the possibility of discovering a pristine example in an old roll, a coin jar, or inherited collection keeps the hunt exciting. So why does the 1986 D penny matter? Despite its enormous mintage, it represents an important era in U.S. coinage when the mint shifted to new materials and mass production reached astonishing levels. It also continues to captivate collectors through its potential for high-grade rarities and valuable mint errors. It's a reminder that even the most ordinary-seeming coins can carry hidden value for those who know what to look for. If you come across a 1986 D penny, take a moment to examine it carefully. Look for strong red color, a clean, glossy surface, and minimal marks. Check for any unusual features like doubling or shifted designs. And if you believe you found a high-grade or error example, consider having it professionally graded. A simple 1-cent piece could turn out to be worth far more than you expect. The 1986 Lincoln Memorial 1-cent penny. At first glance, it may look like an ordinary coin, but as we explore its history, details, rarity, and values, you'll discover that some examples of this penny can be worth far more than just 1 cent. In this video, we're going to explore the no mint mark 1986 penny, explain why it appears without a mint mark, uncover the specifics of its production, analyze what makes certain examples valuable, and finally break down exactly what this coin is worth today in 2025. Let's begin with the background. The Lincoln cent has been a long-standing symbol of American coinage since it was first introduced in 1909 to honor Abraham Lincoln's 100th birthday. Its obverse, featuring Lincoln's portrait, was designed by Victor David Brenner and has become one of the most recognized designs in U.S. coin history. The reverse design used in 1986 shows the Lincoln Memorial, crafted by Frank Gasparo, which had been appearing on cents since 1959. The 1986 penny falls within the long era of the Lincoln Memorial series, which ran from 1959 until 2008. The 1986 penny also belongs to the modern copper-plated zinc era. After 1982, the U.S. Mint transitioned from nearly solid copper cents to coins made of a zinc core coated with a thin layer of copper. This change drastically reduced metal costs, but it also created coins that behave very differently over time. While older copper cents tend to age gracefully, zinc cents can corrode, bubble, or show wear more quickly. For collectors, this means high-grade 1986 pennies must be preserved very carefully, and pristine examples are much more desirable than average circulated ones. Now let's talk about why the 1986 penny appears without a mint mark. Coins made in Philadelphia traditionally have no mint mark unless they are special collector pieces. The 1986 Lincoln cent struck for circulation in Philadelphia follows this tradition, so its lack of a mint mark doesn't necessarily make it rare. In fact, Philadelphia struck well over 4 billion pennies that year, making it one of the most common dates of the series. So while the missing mint mark may catch the eye of new collectors, it is actually standard for this particular mint. Because so many 1986 pennies were produced, most examples are extremely common in circulated condition. A penny that has been spent, handled, and worn will generally be worth only its face value. However, condition is everything in coin collecting. Mint state coins, meaning examples that have never entered circulation and still display original mint luster, are where collectors start to pay attention. Among mint state coins, color matters as well. Lincoln cents are categorized by tone: red, red-brown, or brown. Red coins, which keep their original bright copper color, are significantly more valuable because they show minimal oxidation. While ordinary circulated 1986 pennies are common, this date becomes interesting when we look at high-grade certified examples. A truly flawless or near-flawless 1986 penny with a rich red tone can bring far more than most people would imagine. Professionally graded examples in the highest mint state categories have achieved strong prices at auctions, especially when the coin is graded MS 68 or better. These exceptional, almost perfect examples represent only a tiny fraction of the coins originally minted, and collectors compete strongly for them. In rare cases, top-graded red specimens have sold for hundreds or even thousands of dollars. Another major area of value comes from errors. Minting errors can turn an everyday penny into a prized rarity. Some 1986 pennies are known to have been struck off-center, broad-struck, double-struck, or even struck on the wrong planchet. Wrong planchet errors are particularly valuable. For example, if a 1986 penny was accidentally struck on a dime-sized planchet. Other error varieties include double dies, where the lettering or numbers appear doubled because of a mistake during die production. These errors can range from minor to dramatic, and the more visible and unique the error, the more a collector is willing to pay. In some cases, rare errors from this year have sold for hundreds or several $1,000s, depending on the severity and condition. Now let's look at what the 1986 no mint mark penny is worth in today's market. In 2025, the typical circulated example still holds a value of 1 cent. These are extremely common and do not hold premium value unless they show something unusual. However, a choice uncirculated example, bright, red, and free from scratches or wear, can be worth anywhere from a couple of dollars to over $10, depending on the specific grade. Once you reach very high mint state grades, especially MS 67 and MS 68 red, the value rises significantly. These coins can sell for several $100s or more, depending on collector interest and auction activity. Error coins continue to bring some of the highest prices. A dramatic off-center strike, a strong double die, or a wrong planchet error from 1986 can bring anywhere from $50 to well over $1,000, depending on how rare and visually impressive the error is. Because error coins must be evaluated individually, the market for them can fluctuate, and collectors often pay premiums for verified, certified examples. The 1986 no-mint mark Lincoln penny is a coin that nearly everyone has handled, yet only a small number of examples are truly valuable. Most are worth a cent, but high-grade preserved pieces and rare errors can be worth a surprising amount of money. As with all modern cents, condition, color, rarity of the grade, and the presence of minting errors are the key factors that determine value. In 2025, the market remains strong for exceptional examples of this coin, and collectors continue to seek out the finest pieces that have survived the decades untouched. 1987 D Mint Mark Abraham Lincoln 1-cent penny. At first glance, this coin appears to be a very ordinary piece of pocket change, but behind its simple appearance lies an interesting history, some surprising varieties, and a market where certain examples can be worth a significant amount of money. We're going to explore its origin, its composition, its rarity, the errors collectors dream of finding, and of course, its realistic market value and worth in the year 2025. The 1987 D Lincoln penny was part of the long-running Lincoln Memorial Cent series, which featured the classic portrait of Abraham Lincoln on the front and the Lincoln Memorial on the back. By this time the United States Mint had fully transitioned away from the older bronze composition to a copper-plated zinc planchet, which is why a typical 1987 penny weighs about 2.5 grams and contains only a thin layer of copper over a zinc core. This change had been made earlier in the 1980s due to rising metal prices, and it shaped the look and durability of modern pennies. At the Denver Mint in 1987, production was enormous. Billions of pennies rolled out of the minting presses, and because of that massive output, the average 1987 D penny you find today is extremely common. Most examples entered circulation immediately and lived long lives in pockets, registers, and coin jars. A regular circulated 1987 D penny, with no special characteristics, is still worth only 1 cent today, but as we all know, not every coin is created equal, and some pieces can stand out dramatically. Even in a common year like 1987, special varieties and errors can make a world of difference. Collectors always search for examples that break the pattern, and the 1987 D cent has a few notable surprises. One of the most desirable categories for this coin is error varieties. Because the 1980s were a time of heavy minting, dies were frequently overused, repaired, or replaced, and that sometimes resulted in striking problems. Some collectors have discovered dramatic die cracks, including those that run through the lettering or create raised lines across the design. A famous example shows a significant break near the word Liberty, creating an unusually bold raised feature that makes the coin instantly recognizable. Errors like this, depending on severity, can sell for impressive amounts. Another known collectible form is the double die variety. This happens when details on the coin appear doubled because of misalignment during die creation. A strong double die on the date or lettering can greatly increase a coin's value. While true dramatic double dies from 1987 are very rare, the few exceptional examples known to collectors have sold for huge sums, making this one of the dream finds in modern penny collecting. There are also BIE varieties, created by a small die crack between the letters B and E of Liberty, forming what looks like the letter I. Although these are not incredibly rare, they are fun collectible pieces and often sell for a few dollars depending on grade. Other possibilities include off-center strikes, unplated zinc planchets where the copper layer is missing, and deeply punched or oddly shaped mint marks. All of these can boost value significantly, but what truly drives a penny's price today is condition. Modern copper-plated zinc coins are notoriously hard to keep in pristine shape. The zinc core corrodes easily when the copper layer is damaged, and the thin plating shows scratches and dulling quickly. That's why the highest grades, especially coins that remain bright red with no spots or discoloration, can command much higher prices. Professional grading services often certify the best examples, and coins graded in the top levels, especially those reaching the elite mint state 67 or mint state 68 range, can sell for many tens of dollars or even into the hundreds depending on demand. In past sales, some exceptionally sharp mint state examples with full red color have brought impressive prices at auction. As of 2025, a standard high-grade 1987 D penny without errors typically sells for anywhere from a few dollars to over $100 if it reaches extremely high grades. Ordinary uncirculated pieces often sell in the $5 to $20 range, depending on color designation and strike quality. When it comes to error coins, values vary dramatically. Minor errors may bring only a few dollars, but strong off-center strikes, major die breaks, or a confirmed double die can reach into the thousands, and in rare instances, some unique showpiece errors have sold for life-changing amounts. These are extremely rare, but they do exist, and they keep collectors motivated to check every penny they come across. So what is the 1987 D penny really worth in 2025? For most people, the one they find in a jar or in change is worth only face value. However, for collectors who hold pristine, sharply struck examples, the value increases significantly. For those lucky enough to uncover an error, even a small one, the price jumps higher. And for the rare few who discover a truly exceptional error or top-tier mint state specimen, the value can reach extraordinary levels. What makes this coin fascinating is not that it's rare overall, but that its rarity lies within specific varieties and exceptional grades. It's a modern coin that proves even pennies from recent decades can become highly collectible under the right circumstances. If you have a 1987 D penny at home, take the time to examine it carefully. Look for unusual marks, doubling, cracks, missing plating, or strong red luster. You never know what you might have. And if you're unsure, it can be worth submitting your coin to a grading service to authenticate and evaluate it properly. Thank you for joining me for this in-depth look at the 1987 D Lincoln penny. If you enjoyed this detailed breakdown, be sure to like the video, subscribe to the channel, and leave a comment about any rare pennies you've discovered. Your coin stories help build our community, and you never know, your experience might help another collector find a treasure of their own. Keep hunting, keep learning, and I'll see you in the next video.